Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett just delivered a shell on the House floor. In a fiery speech that left Republicans stunned, Crockett turned the so-called tough on crime narrative on its head, using the sponsor's own criminal past to expose the double standard at the heart of the GOP's agenda. This isn't just politics, it's a reality check about redemption, justice, and who really deserves a second chance in America.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I sat and listened to the beginning of this debate, my heart simply broke. And many people know me for being able to do alliterations, and all I could think about was amnesia allows adolescent accountability avoidance agility from across the aisle. So work with me for a second. Imagine being a young man born to Jamaican and Panamanian parents who messed up not once but twice. Imagine standing in front of a judge with your whole future hanging in the balance, and instead of prison, you are given a promise of mercy. Your record gets wiped clean. You get a second chance at life. Now imagine taking that promise and turning it into promotion. You go to college, you get a job, and even become a member of Congress. That's what redemption looks like. That's what America is supposed to be about. And that is exactly the story of the next wannabe governor from Florida. As a young man, he went through pretrial diversion for misdemeanor marijuana possession. As an adult, yet younger than 24, he was charged with and ultimately placed on probation for felony bribery charges, which ultimately were 2 expunged. He was given a third chance, and now he's the face of a bill that would not afford young people in Washington, D.C. the same opportunities afforded to him. Let me be real. If he had grown up under Donald Trump's America or under the very D.C. crime bill he's pushing today, he wouldn't be standing here as a member of Congress. He'd still be living with the weight of those charges. So let's call this what it is, opportunities for me, but not for thee. He climbed the ladder of redemption, and now he's yanking it right up from the D.C. youth. See, most of us were taught to lift as you climb, but clearly some have forgotten to lift as they climb, and now they are committed to telling the next generation to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. I will not sit quiet while a man who was saved by grace turns around and tries to snatch grace away from others. If we're going to be real about crime, about communities,
time
about...
has expired.
I'd like to yield for an additional minute, please.
Gentlewoman is recognized.
About second chances and even third chances, then it needs to start with us looking in the mirror and remembering that even the author of this bill has a story too before he tries to lecture DC on safety. And it would be complete hypocrisy to have, hypothetically, someone convicted of 34 felonies to lecture DC on what to do with youthful offenders who have been scientifically shown not to have fully developed brains under the age of 25, especially if said multi-count convicted felon was in his 70s when he was convicted. What would be his excuse? Because his brain would be fully developed, and with that, I will yield back.
What we just witnessed wasn't just a fiery floor speech. It was a clinic in conscience. Representative Jasmine Crockett didn't just speak truth to power. She held up a mirror to hypocrisy. She laid bare the contradictions of a system where some people get endless chances, while others, especially young, poor, and Black or brown Americans, get written off after one mistake. Crockett begins with that signature blend of intelligence and wordplay. Amnesia allows adolescent accountability avoidance agility from across the aisle. It's not just poetic, it's piercing. She's calling out selective memory. Because the same people pushing harsh law and order rhetoric today are the very ones who benefited from mercy, leniency, and second chances in their own lives. And here's the heart of it. Crockett reminds us what America is supposed to be about: redemption. The idea that your past doesn't have to define your future. She tells the story of the bill's sponsor, a man who himself once stood before a judge, faced serious charges, and was granted mercy. That act of grace gave him a new beginning, a second chance that changed everything. But now, he's championing a DC crime bill that would strip others of the same opportunity that saved him. Crockett exposes this for what it is, not about justice, but about double standards. Opportunities for me, but not for thee. That line hits like thunder. She connects the dots, how privilege and selective morality intersect. Because when mercy is only extended to people who look a certain way or come from certain backgrounds, that's not justice. That's bias dressed up as policy. Then she takes it even further, turning the conversation into a moral reckoning. She says, most of us were taught to lift as we climb. That's the American ideal. progress that pulls others up, not policies that push others down. Crockett reminds the chamber and the country that those who've climbed the ladder of forgiveness have a responsibility not to pull it up behind them. And in one of her most powerful moments, she draws a sharp contrast. How can the same political party defend a man convicted of 34 felonies, a man in his 70s whose brain is fully developed, as she notes, yet have no compassion for teenagers who make mistakes before their minds are even fully formed? The hypocrisy is staggering. Crockett's message is simple but profound. If America truly believes in redemption, it has to believe in it for everyone, not just the privileged few. Mercy can't be partisan. Justice can't be conditional. And when she says, "I will not sit quiet while a man who was saved by grace turns around and tries to snatch grace away from others," that's not just political theater, that's moral clarity. It's about the soul of justice itself. What Crockett delivered wasn't a speech, it was a lesson, a reminder that justice without empathy becomes cruelty, and that democracy dies not only when truth is attacked, but when compassion becomes selective. If we want a fairer, freer America, we must do more than talk about second chances. We must practice them. Because redemption shouldn't depend on who you are, but on who you choose to become. And that's why voices like Jasmine Crockett's matter. She doesn't just speak for herself. She speaks for everyone who's been denied grace by a system that pretends to be blind, but often isn't. If you believe in equity, redemption, and accountability that applies to everyone, share this. Speak up. Stay engaged. Because silence only serves the status quo. And as Crockett just showed us, the truth still has a powerful voice on that House floor. If you value truth, justice, and compassion in leadership, don't just watch. Subscribe, stay informed, and keep the conversation alive. America can't afford selective memory anymore. It's time to remember who we are supposed to be.